Hey, Carly Dirks here, PNDC's Procurement Counselor, and it's time for your monthly digital digest, an opportunity to hear about issues impacting PNDC members. So first up, we have Tina. And no, I'm not talking about Tina Fey, and I'm definitely not talking about Tina Turner. We're talking about the Truth in Negotiations Act. And let me tell you what, she went out and got a new name change altogether. So the NDA recently was passed that changed the name from TINA, the Truth in Negotiations Act, to Truthful Cost or Pricing Data Act. So first we're going to hear about that, and then we're going to hear about the GAO office's new bid protest filing fees. So who's going to teach us about these topics? Up first is David Yang and then Adam Lasky. Both of them are from PNDC member law firm Oles Morrison, Rinker & Baker. Gentlemen, take it away.
Good morning, my name is David Yang. I'm a partner with Oles Morrison, and today I wanted to talk to you about some of the exciting developments in the 2018 NDAA with respect to the Truthful Cost and Pricing Data Act, which used to be called TINA. In the past, the purpose of the Truth in Negotiations Act, which is now called the Truthful Cost and Pricing Data Act, was to provide certified cost and pricing data in procurements, mostly cost-based contracts, to allow the contracting officer to get a very good kind of granular sense of how much the anticipated cost will be, since cost control is a very important part of government contracting. And so in the older days, prior to the most recent 2018 National Defense Authorization Act, the threshold for TINA was $750,000. So if you had a contract or a subcontract or a modification of a contract that exceeded $750,000, then you were required to submit what is called certified cost and pricing data, and there were many nuances with that. Most significantly, the certification was the primary key, and when you submit that, you have to certify that your overhead and labor costs and other things are accurate, complete, and current. And that is a very big burden on contractors and has additional ramifications, which I'll get into in a bit. So prior to 2018's NDAA, the threshold for submitting certified cost and pricing data was $750,000. In Section 811 of the 2018 NDAA, they have raised the threshold from $750,000 to $2 million. And so this has a number of very significant implications for contractors. Primarily, one is that there's going to be far fewer contracts that are going to require the contractor to submit certified cost and pricing data, because obviously we're talking about a much higher minimum threshold from $750,000 to $2 million. And parallel with that is you have the cost accounting standards, and also known as the CAS. And so the CAS is also tied to the same dollar threshold as TINA. So whereas before, when TINA requires certified cost and pricing data for contracts and subcontracts and mods for $750,000, that was also where the cost accounting standards would apply as well. Now, with the $2 million increase, CAS will only apply to contracts that also equal or exceed $2 million. So what does this mean for contractors? Well, one thing is that certainly there are going to be far fewer contracts and subcontracts where contractors and subcontractors are going to have to submit certified cost and pricing data. Generally, this is good for contractors. It's also good for procurement. For the contractor side, the certification has always been a risky proposition in certain areas, because you are certifying to the government that your proposed cost structure is current, accurate, and complete. And so if it is incorrect for some reason, whether inadvertently or inadvertently, that can expose you to all sorts of unfortunate or distasteful ramifications, such as contract terminations, contract adjustments, and also potentially defective pricing issues that will usually translate into False Claims Act liability or potentially. So that was always a tension between contractors being required to provide certifications, which they don't really want to do because it doesn't open them up to potential liability. And so now with the higher threshold, we're going to see, what we should see are fewer contracts that have that requirement. So we will see less certified, cost and pricing data. That's helpful to contractors because, as I mentioned, it will, in theory, decrease the number of defective pricing issues and hopefully should, tamper down some of the False Claims Act, implications of that. The other thing that is going to be very helpful to both sides is that DCA, just given the volume of all the different types of audits that they do, having a higher threshold and as noted, having the cost accounting standards threshold tied to the $2 million that is now applicable to TINA, we should see fewer incurred cost audits. There's been a fairly long backlog going back many years, and so that should alleviate some of the burden on DCA, and it should facilitate the actual audit process of incurred cost audits to kind of speed those along and hopefully shorten that time period. It's very important, obviously, for contract administration because with these audits, we want to make sure that on both sides of the fence, both the government and the contractor are able to resolve reimbursement for costs or question costs in a more timely and expeditious manner, and that will improve the efficiency of the acquisition process. And then also, what the increase in the threshold from $750K to $2 million under TINA is that we should see fewer defective pricing audits. Defective pricing audits, as noted, is where you provide certified cost and pricing data and the government contends that your certification is incorrect because the data is not accurate or it's not current or it's not complete. And so we should see fewer types of those audits, and that will, in theory, hopefully allow DCA to reallocate their resources to other types of audits like incurred cost audits and, more importantly, business system audits, which are very important as well. And so, all in all, I think that the genesis behind the 2018 NDAA as enacted by Congress is to basically alleviate the kind of backlog to make the acquisition process simpler, and we shall see. So last point is that according to the statute, which is not self-implementing, but this takes effect for contracts and any modifications or subcontracts that are enacted after or on or about July 1, 2018. The statute is not self-implementing, so it does need regulations which are still being implemented. So it's possible that that by the time this actually goes in effect, it actually might be after July 1. But I think that this is ultimately a very kind of practical approach, and obviously time will tell, and hopefully this will speed up and make the acquisition process and the audit process far more efficient. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Adam Lasky. I'm a partner at Oles Morrison and part of our government contracts group. Today I want to talk about GAO's new bid protest filing rules, specifically EPDS. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, handles approximately 2,500 bid protests per year concerning federal procurements. For years, GAO has accepted bid protest filings by mail, hand delivery, fax, or email. And yes, people were still faxing protests even as of today. Well, the federal government has put another nail in the coffin of fax machines. Starting May 1st, GAO will now only allow protests by their new web-based electronic filing system, which they are calling EPDS. In January of 2014, Congress directed GAO to create an electronic filing system and docketing system for bid protests and authorized GAO to start charging a filing fee for protests. GAO has been working on this electronic system ever since, trying to create a functional, user-friendly system that would also have adequate security and protections to safeguard source selection sensitive information that is commonly exchanged under protective order in GAO bid protests. GAO released proposed rules for EPDS in April 2016 and launched an EPDS pilot program in February 2018, whereby GAO migrated already filed bid protests onto EPDS for a test run. Starting May 1st, however, all protests will need to be filed through EPDS. To be clear, on May 1st, you will no longer be able to file your protests by email or, yes, by fax machine. In addition to the implementation of EPDS, GAO has made other revisions to its protest regulations that take effect May 1st, including clarifying bid protest deadlines, clarifying the scope of GAO's bid protest jurisdiction, and making changes to the process for redacting documents under a protective order. Again, importantly, starting May 1st, the sole means for filing documents in bid protests at GAO will be by EPDS, with two exceptions: documents containing classified material and documents that for reasons of size or format are simply not suitable for filing on EPDS. There are special instructions available for filing those type of documents. Also starting May 1st, GAO will begin charging a $350 filing fee for all bid protests. The $350 fee was derived based on development costs that GAO incurred or will incur for EPDS spread across approximately 7 years. Unfortunately, there will be no fee waiver for small businesses, at least not initially. When you file a protest, you will be automatically redirected to www.pay.gov, and there you can pay the filing fee by credit card, by PayPal, or even through your Amazon account. The filing fee will not be required, however, for supplemental protests, requests for reconsideration, or requests for costs and fees. The rules for EPDS are reflected in 13 CFR Part 21. In addition, GAO has provided a multitude of instructional materials for using EPDS, including 6 handy how-to videos and 160 pages of instructional manuals. We provided links below to the new regulations pertaining to EPDS, as well as GAO's instructional manuals and how-to videos. GAO's bid protest deadlines are short and strictly enforced. I cannot emphasize that enough. They are strictly enforced. If you miss a deadline, even by a minute, it is highly likely that your bid protest will be summarily dismissed by GAO. There will certainly be growing pains with the new EPDS system. Therefore, those who file bid protests should start now and familiarize themselves with the new rules concerning EPDS before they take effect May 1st.
Gentlemen, thank you for your time and expertise. And to our viewers, thank you for stopping by another one of PNDC's Digital Digests. If you have a top issue or pressing concern, please email me at Carley, C-A-R-L-E-Y, @pndc.us. We'll see you next time.